Hi folks, Kieran here. I hope you're all good. This is a response video to the vlogger Daniel Mackler. Now, Daniel does videos about psychology, psychiatry, that kind of stuff, and he does great vids. And this isn't a response to any particular video of his. It's like a response to his work in general. So in his videos, he tends to make his videos are centered around a kind of one kind of theme, which is that he thinks that a lot of people are traumatized by their parents and that these people become disconnected, as he says, from these traumas, and they kind of either can't remember these bad things that their parents did to them, or they're in kind of denial about it. They remember, but they don't consider what happened to be bad or something. And then his solution is that he thinks people should grieve their traumas, as he says, as he describes it, and that is kind of remembering the stuff and kind of feel bad about what happened to them, kind of have the normal reaction that they maybe did have originally to it, but have kind of buried, and then hopefully come through the other side of this kind of this grieving process, and then they will be kind of mentally well, better people, and I think I assume he thinks that they'll become like nicer people and happier people. Anyway, that's what I would see the goal of all this psychology stuff is, to try and make people nicer, and both nicer and happier. I'll address the video from now on to Daniel himself, but this video is for anybody who's interested. So Daniel, I like your videos. I've been enjoying quite a lot of them, and I think broadly speaking, I have some disagreements with you, or some things I'm skeptical about, which I will go into in a moment. But overall, I think you're probably more sort of right than wrong, or certainly your heart is in the right place. You're siding with the kind of victims of bad parenting, and you're focusing on a very important issue. I think you're taking it from the side of sort of compassion. So going into your kind of first claim, if we can split your claim into sort of pieces, you could take your first claim is that you think it's pretty common that parents are mistreating their children, and that these children are going on to kind of suffer for it as they go through life. I think when I was thinking of making this video maybe a week ago, I kind of thought I was a bit skeptical about that. I've kind of always kind of thought that most parents out there are doing an okay job. But thinking about it, I don't know, you made me focus on it, and I'm not really sure. I just don't really know, to be honest. I think quite a lot of people are pretty unpleasant in my experience out there in the world. I know I did this job in a petrol station years ago, and I remember noticing that quite a lot of people never said thank you and never said please. I think I may have measured it to be about a third of people, but I've since kind of gone with this assumption that like a third of people are not very pleasant. I've had some bad experiences of people working with people and stuff. So if a third of people are bad people, which is a totally uneducated guess, I must admit, but if that is the case, then behind closed doors, what the hell do these people do to their kids that they've got under their power? Probably don't treat them very well. It could be that it's a very common thing that people are unpleasant to their kids, maybe even a lot of smacking going on behind the scenes and so on. I mean, parents are often quite bad to their own kids in front of people in public. So yeah, it can only be worse in private. So I won't disagree massively with that. But yeah, the rest of your claims, I am a bit more skeptical about. So let me go through them now. So secondly, you're kind of saying that, suggesting that a lot of people who have these traumas are treated badly by their parents. Actually, kind of bury the memories, or they repress the memories, or something, and they become disconnected from their trauma, as I think you call it. Um, I well, I should say, as a massive caveat to all of this, I'm not an expert in this field at all. I haven't done any research, I'm sad to say, for this video. I should research these things, but I find researching things a little bit boring, and rather just put a camera on and sound off. And I do boring projects that look like boring, like I'm trying to learn Spanish, for example. But I've only got so much kind of time for doing stuff like effort like that. And yeah, I regrettably I'm not an expert in this stuff, and I haven't really looked into it. But I've always been a little bit skeptical about like repressing memories. Maybe I should give it a try and try to dredge up some memories myself. I haven't ever seriously done that. Maybe I will dredge up some new things and really surprise myself. I don't know. But my kind of default position on this is kind of, I'm afraid, that I don't think that bad memories generally get repressed, and I'm not that hopeful for people trying to dig up new memories that they will find some major game changing memories. Also, I imagine in most cases, if you got like traumatizing kind of parents, then they wouldn't have suddenly stopped when you reached like 5 or something. They would have carried on probably, and then um, you're surely going to remember stuff that happens to you when you're like 7, 8, 10, 12. I would think traumatizing things. I mean, the traumatizing things that I do remember in my life tend to really stick in my head. I like being bullied at school or whatever. I mean, nothing, thankfully, particularly terrible has happened to me. But we've all had a share of traumatizing moments, and they seem to really strongly stick in my mind. Like, be like a traumatizing thing that happened in a certain school year tends to be like practically the only thing I remember from the whole school year or something. So I guess I'm a little bit skeptical about that, but remain to be educate myself more. The thing about people sort of remembering it, but still being disconnected from it, or being biased and sort of denying that being hit was kind of a bad thing, or being neglected was a bad thing. I see that more of a case of people just having a different view to mine about these things. So um, they there's a lot of people out there who think hitting kids is okay, and that kids neglect, I don't know how they would think of it, but like kids should entertain themselves or something. I mean, there's a lot of people who just have those views, and a lot of those people probably are victims of these things, as I would see it. I mean, I don't think people should hit their kids. I don't think people should neglect their kids, and I think people should play with their kids when the kids. I try to play with my kids when the kids ask to play with me. I mean, not every time, but I do try my best to make time for them. So, but other people do have different views on this, and I don't know if it's really helpful to say they're denying something, or that they're not connected, or if they've got a psychological problem, or that they're sort of being dishonest. I don't know if they are being dishonest. I mean, they think they got hit. They think they're sorry that they. I mean, they hit their kids. They think that it's a necessary evil. That if you don't hit kids, they become spoiled and become unpleasant and become lazy or something. And they know that they got hit as kids, and they obviously know that it hurt. But they think now that with their adult eyes, they realized that it was a necessary evil. So I see there's more of people having a different opinion. Um, I think there could be a process where people become sort of have the compassion sort of knocked out of them. It could be I think this might make sort of evolutionary sense that in sort of really dangerous times, human beings kind of brought up in dangerous times don't sort of have their empathy doesn't grow so much, so because they have to be mean to survive in those sort of ages of history and prehistory. But in sort of kinder times, they become sort of their compassion gets nurtured and they become sort of more compassionate, which is actually a survival trait too, because they become better at cooperating and working together with people and stuff, and they have less to fear from other people. So it could be that these people who are, who are hitting their kids and have been hit or are mistreating their kids in some way, um, have sort of had that experience. They have become, their minds have developed down this, and emotions have developed down this kind of harsh kind of route. Um, and it's That's possible, but anyway, well, moving on to your solution, which is the people need to grieve their traumas and then sort of come through the other side of that. I'm afraid I'm a little bit skeptical about that as well. I think that if something really bad happens to you, I mean, if you just suddenly realize that you well, let me put it this way: if you got sort of hurt by your parents and you're kind of numb to it, and uh, you kind of don't really cry about it, you just kind of move on, and I don't know if there's any real benefit to you trying to sort of grieve about it. Is that going to make you happier? What if you did set aside 6 months to kind of grieve over some stuff that happened to you, that you being sort of hardened to up to that point, or you've been bottling a bit? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it would really help. I think there's a real danger you might dwell on it too much, and it might actually turn into a bigger thing than it needs to be in your head. Um, I think on the on the issue of whether you if you think about if we think about becoming a better person rather than think about being a happier person, firstly, um, well, I admit it would be, if you did make the journey from becoming a person who thinks hitting kids is right to a person who thinks that hitting kids is wrong. At some point, if you were a victim of being hit by your parents, then you are going to at some point reassess your own parents and your own life on the way. But is that an essential part of that journey? I don't know. I think the way we turn people who lack compassion to people who are compassionate. I mean, it's really difficult, isn't it? I think we just need to just share the facts about what happens to people who get hit, or not force them, but sort of encourage them to reflect on the victims, including themselves. But I don't know if they should really need to go into some sort of grief. I mean, they already know that these things hurt, but they obviously believe they have some other arguments that they think sort of defend sort of hitting children. And then, okay, so on the issue of becoming a happier person, again, I mean, I think grief when you lose a loved one or something. And another caveat here, I should say that I haven't really been through much grief in my life. I'm not an expert on grief at all, but it seems to me that grief is like a natural reaction to something really bad happening. It's a bit like if you fall and break your leg, it's gonna hurt. But if you like lose a loved one, it's gonna hurt because it's nature's way of sort of incentivizing you to avoid losing loved ones and breaking your leg and stuff. But I don't know if grief really helps. It's just inevitable. I think if you lose your partner or lose a parent or something, you're gonna go through it, and may take longer or shorter time, but eventually, in most cases, you will get back to some sort of normality in the end. You'll get back to normal in the end. You will find, hopefully, other people that will fulfill you like these people you lost did, if you're lucky. So that's what grief is. But as I was saying, if you do have some bad events and you haven't grieved, but I don't know if trying to grieve is gonna really help. Is it? I don't know. I'm not in other people's heads. Maybe it does help has helped for other people, but I think in the long run you should be trying. Even if I don't think you're gonna find any great answer. I mean, you are gonna find new insights and stuff, but in the end, these insights are gonna come at the price that you are dwelling on this bad event, and the way you're really gonna recover. If you are really traumatized with something, you probably never will fully recover, but your best chance, the most full recovery is to focus on other things and not lie to yourself that your parents were good when they were, but be honest. But also just try to find the positives in your relationship with them and in your relationships with others. And if your relationship with them is really so bad that it is, you have to kind of withdraw from it, then rather better to sort of focus on others. That's my feeling anyway. I'm not in other people's heads, as I said. And anyway, I've probably rambled on long enough about this. I hope people found this interesting, and keep up the good work, Daniel. I really love your videos, and all the best to everyone.